Okay, just a real quick version of this. We didn't get to finish this, but it's a similar idea. Basically, I'm given this to graph. Amplitude is 4. Period is pi. I want you to make sure you know that the period, recall that period for tangent and cotangent are going to be pi. So make sure you remember that. Our period in this particular case is 1. There's no phase shift going on up here, and there's no vertical shift. So we said just to keep something standard, we'd count by 1/4 of the pi to give us nice, easy increments. So 1/4 of our period right here is 1. It's just we're going to count by fourths. So we start with our phase shift, 0, and then count by 1/4. Add a 1/4, add a 1/4, add a 1/4, add a 1/4. And then I plug this x value into my function and I simplify. Now the tangent at pi times 0 is just 0. So the tangent at 0 is 0 times 4 is 0. Tangent at pi fourths, when you multiply these together, is going to be 1, because remember it's your y value over your x value, so that's just going to be 1 times 4 is 4. Tangent at this becomes pi halves, so the tangent at pi halves is undefined, so this is undefined. Tangent at 3 pi fourths calculates to be -1. -1 times 4 is -4. And one more point, tangent of 1 times pi is just pi. Tangent of pi is 0, so 0 times 4 is 0, which I sketched those points on this next page. And of course I extended it a bit because we didn't necessarily calculate this point or this point, but for the sake of seeing a complete image, I added those to the graph. Okay, and let's look at a cotangent example. Amplitude 2, period, remember, is pi for tangent and cotangent, so pi over b. The b is just a known 1 here, so period is just pi. The phase shift is -c over b, simplifies to -pi fourths. We have a vertical shift of it's going down 1. And we said just to stay standard, have a standard method, we're going to count by 1/4 of the period. Well, the period was pi, so our increments are going to be pi fourths increments. We also said just to stay, keep a similar procedure, we'd start with our phase shift, which is -pi fourths, and increment pi fourths, plus 5 pi fourths, plus pi fourths, plus pi fourths to get our x values, and then evaluate them over here. So then we would have plug -pi fourths in here and you get 0. The cotangent of 0 is just undefined. Cotangent of pi fourths is going to be 1. 1 times 2 is 2. 2 minus 1 is 1. Okay, add these and you get cotangent of pi over 2, which is 0, and then 0 times 2 is 0. Minus 1 is -1. This adds to be 3 pi fourths, so the cotangent of 3 pi over 4 is -1. -1 times 2, and then subtract 1 from that, you get -3. And then we have an undefined for this last one, recalling that these calculations for cotangent are the x value over the y value. Okay, and then we have a sketch of that on this page, which is mostly this function to the left, and my sketches are not the greatest, but and then this I just tried to extend it so you could see a little bit more of it. But anyway, that's kind of the method. The method is going to be, you're going to give your characteristics of your amplitude, period, phase shift. We like to start at the phase shift and increment by 1/4 of our period so that we get equal increments, and then you just substitute in and calculate that to sketch the rest of your graph.